Hey, let's do this. Crowdfunding roundup, a little bit extra. I'm gonna see how many I can fit in before my brain overloads, this video becomes 3 hours in length, or something else in between, because I haven't done this now for 3 weeks. I missed the last 2. Some of these campaigns are already finished, some of these campaigns are finishing, and there's just way too much for one video, so we're just gonna see how much we can cram it in. Ready, set, let's go. Let's talk about crowdfunding quotes though for a second, because I saw one that really pissed me off, because you know what? I gotta get paid. I gotta get my name on the page. So then you can put quotes on the page that say, this is a fun game with a cute theme. Insert other adjectives around that either way. That is garbage. Garbage worthlessness. It's basically like a food critic who says it has a good mouth feel. WTF. What does that even freaking mean? Come on, do better. We deserve better. Scales of Fate. See, I told you, first one's already done. $813,000. And that's a lot of money, right? Ivy Studios, I think that's pretty good for them. And that's higher than things like Tend, actually, in even the second Mythic Mischief campaign. Not quite as high as your Fractured Sky, definitely not high as Veiled Fate, but kind of in between. I covered it. I had a video, and it's a 2-player in the setting of Veiled Fate with a slight deduction element of things, but really an abstract nature with a thematic overlaying if you like that sort of thing. No stretch goals. They're giving you just all of the deluxifications that IV Studios does in the first place. It's 2-player, misdirection, a little bit of asymmetric power there as well. You've got sort of the scales of fate over here on the left side of the board, which is determined what's going to happen to the guys down in the underworld as you scale them or kick them off down into there, positives or negatives. And the difference, the main difference on this one is that it's going to be scored mainly on the markers around the outside, which is similar, but the difference here is that you either get the difference between the 2 key secret characters that you have chosen of those markers, or if they're both in the same space, you get whatever that space is. So if you can get one super high and one super low, awesome. If you can get them both high, even better. And then there's a few other little point things that go along the way in terms of figuring out your opponents. If you guess correctly, you get extra bonus points. If you don't get either of them, you get slight tiny negative. And if you just get one, you get 0. And that's kind of the dynamic. I'd say easily 5 minutes to teach, under 30 minutes to play, and yeah, I wanted a little bit more, truth be told. I wanted a little bit more of the deduction element, and I wanted the benefit of the deduction, right? Because it's like 3 points positive you get them, and it's like -1 if you don't. So I would just like more of that. It's got everything that it says. It's straightforward, right? And I don't think it's close enough to Veiled Fate to make you feel like if I have Veiled Fate, this is just a copy pasta sort of thing, and there's not going to be any difference in that regard. Sort of like I see the complaints with the more recent Azul Duel, if you will. It's going to be completely different. The dynamic, the actual player counts, it works well. Now, Pillars of Fate here, I didn't have a chance to talk about this one. I didn't have a chance to see this one as a 2-player lane battler deduction. Again, give me more asymmetry, crazy chaosness. Give me more deduction element of things, and I would be very happy with this. I would actually be very happy to try this one out, and I think that that one could be even better for me as a fit. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get a chance to try it out at some point and let you know. But it's, you know, expensive when we talk about those other dueling games, right? You can pick up Splendor Duel for like less than 20 bucks. You can pick up Azul Duel for about 25. And this is, with the deluxified version of things, $59 there. $39 if you just want the regular version. So again, how do you deluxify? Where do you go? Who do you back in that sense? And then they just break it down like the other crowdfunding campaigns with Veiled Fate. You can make it metal, get extra sleeves, and limited edition it, all of those sorts of things. And you can try it even online now with Tabletop Simulator. And you can even late back it here, and it'll be open later this month. And awesome. You know what, Ivy Studios, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to say kudos to them. We're also going to say kudos to the next campaign as well, because you will have it before the end of the freaking year. Coming to me with a finished product is the best thing on crowdfunding. I hate this. We're going to announce the campaign now, have the campaign run next year, and you'll get your games by 2029. No! Thank you. So, next campaign, speaking of that, Onward, the MOBA board game. just finishing up, gonna get real close to $500,000. Sky Tier, thank you. They're ready to hit the print button. Most important thing, actually, it doesn't really matter because the time you're gonna view this, it's gonna be over. And they're not doing a pledge manager. No late pledging. Hit print and get it by the end of the year because there's tons of miniatures. This is my type of game, folks. This is a straightforward, I covered it, I talked about it, 2-player, well, you can play it up to 4, lane battler, a mix, if you will. For me personally, I'm not sure, again, how totally apt this comparison is. Reading the rule book, watching some of the gameplay, but not actually playing it myself. Battle for Britannia meets Guards of Atlantis 2. It's got the Battle of Britannia lane style, more vibes. It's got the Guards of Atlantis 2. You're really getting more asymmetry, more craziness, and more of that element, not the sort of programming that you have with Battle for Britannia. All in, I love this as well, right? You have your regular standee edition, just the base game. And they make it very clear in this page and multiple updates. This is complete. You're still getting 16 heroes. So if you only play with 4 at a time, you still have mix, match, customizable ability all across the board. But if you want all the gameplay, you get double that for slightly double the price. But it also gets you, I think, 2 more maps, as it says here, and expansions. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about including sleeved cards there, but you know what? It was what it is. If you're a Sky Tier player, they support you. If you want the all-in, you can do that. And if you want miniatures, it's going to cost you 190 euros. That's a big bump. I mean, these miniatures look nice, but I'd say Team Standee, right? Be having a copy of this game later this year. And if you like their other stuff, which again, I'm overdue on putting their review together for this game of Sky Tier Horde down here. And I'm just really liking this game too. I have monoliths and I have the base game. And again, there's that warning. There you go. Either back it or don't. Rulebook is there. It's been out since before the campaign. There's a tutorial on how to play, 1 review, and I think they had very limited prototypes with the time frame. Shipments, delivery, and everything else by December. I love it. I love it. I love it. And you should love it too. Even if neither of these projects are for you, even if you say neither of these projects are within your price range or your budget, this is how you do it. I love it. I know everyone can't do it, but I'm going to give kudos where kudos is due. There you go. Ashes Ascendancy. This thing has skyrocketed since it just launched. $143,000. I mean, this is a new starter set, if you will, for Ashes Reborn, the Red Rain version, because you can play this game if you're not familiar. They basically sent out this LCG-esque vibe, a mix of like a TCG and Summoner Wars, if you will, with some deck construction. You can play PvP, but now you can play cooperatively with the Red Rain. And now this is giving you a new starter set, if you will. Love Plaid Hat Games, love what they put out. This game should probably be in my collection because, again, it's right up my wheelhouse of you don't have the randomness that you might not like in these PvP card drawing, battling head-to-head games, because you get to choose your starting hand of 5 cards. You just thumb through your deck at the beginning of the game, choose your 5 cards, and your opponent does the same thing. And so you can't complain about the random draw determining the winner. And then you roll your dice to determine the sides of the dice that are going to allow you to play certain cards. You play to your area, you attack, you can fight chimeras as the bosses, and you can have about a half a dozen or so expansions. This is giving you 3 different characters that you can choose to use from. The biggest reason I don't have this game is because I can't deck construct very well. And the main aspect of the differences of going through these is that you get to, be creative and be cool and make some cool combos and chains based on how awesome your thinking is in terms of that. Now, I know that the pre-constructeds are pretty good and you can modify and the people put stuff out, but that's the biggest hesitation because I don't feel like I'm going to get the full value of it. At the same time, is it going to stop me from probably getting this game eventually or trading for a set of somebody else's that doesn't want it? No, I'm probably going to get it. So there you go. And now this says 2 pre-constructed player decks because you're actually getting, the Dragonborn there and then 2 of the Phoenixborn. So there you go. That's it. You can get in on this campaign. You can get some deluxified tokens as well. Shut Up and Sit Down recommends it. Dice Tower recommends it. Everybody loves it if you're loving this type of thing. $50 for the starter set, $120 for all the new stuff, which gets you a storage solution as well as the acrylics. New players get all of these. That's my only question, is they're selling all of these individual decks for like $15, which I think for some of them, if they're on stock, you can find them online, then it's going to be slightly less. But some of them aren't in stock, so you might be better off getting some of the harder to get ones here. Take what you want, get what you want. And there are some of the other bigger expansions right there, the more robust ones. Campaign bonus right here, a few goodies that you're going to get unlocked, and shipping's going to be whatever it is. So there you go. Plaid Hat, love what they put out. Want to see more? Well, and they're splitting between retail and crowdfunding. There you go. Red Dragon Inn. It's just 2 new characters for Red Dragon Inn. It's got $70,000. I'm going to leave it at that because they are going to leave it at that. They don't even tell you how to play the game. They just say, hey, you want our new stuff? Slugfest is going to give it to you, and here's $70,000 as sort of press your luck style, you know, based on thematically drinking in a tavern game. There you go. Short and sweet this week. Speaking of short and sweet, Lobotomy 2 is back. Lobotomy 2, The Dimensions of Madness. I'm not going to the mechanistic approach with this one because you know what? This video is going to be too long otherwise if I break this down. But it's another dungeon crawler in the lines of a hellscape horror type style situation where you take on the role of basically trying to escape the asylum and not get lobotomized on your way out as a horror-based thematic incorporation. And the 3 different core boxes that you have here give you different thematic experiences. The core box of just escaping the asylum, the hell is escaping literally hell, and then the alternate dimensions, which changes up everything that you're doing along the way. And I'm not kidding about that, right? That's the dimensions one. It's literally dimensions. Different variants, different villains, different good guys, and just different bosses along the way. You can see right here, the dimensions is going to give you a little bit of everything in the same regard, just difference of what you like thematically incorporated. And it actually tells you a little bit down here about what the differences are. Choosing your adventure, taking your personal quest and your abilities, because that's going to help you level up if you do in your order to escape the lobotomizing madmen and monsters that are going after you, because, well, it's going to be easier. But if you don't do it, it might be quicker to get out otherwise. So the balancing act is mainly there. Arm yourself with anything that you can find, including junk, horror scenarios, and events occurring along the way with different elite monsters joining up to try and stop you, using your madness to acquire disorders in order to help you even further. This is the dimensions aspect, and I really like this one actually the most of all 3 of it, because they talk about interdimensional gates being opened. The library, basically where you're reading stories, has become ground zero for imaginative mix-up matchups of everything, right? Lighthearted sci-fi adventure, horror laced with romance. As you recently read Dracula, you might pay a visit to his castle. You shape the unique scenario unfolding in a different world. I love the idea of that. Inferno's fine, but I mean, Dante's Inferno, right? I'm just not a huge fan of it. I wasn't a huge fan of the theme otherwise in other games. And so sometimes you just have your thing and you like your thing better than others and you are okay with that. So again, for one that hasn't gotten nearly as much of attention as some of the other bigger dungeon crawlers that have been out for years and years and years and years, Lobotomy 2 got almost $250,000 at the launch here. So give it a look-see. Then we'll hop over here to Rise of Myths Cthulhu, cooperative roguelike deck building game, which I know mea culpa because I slightly screwed up how I was playing it, gave a slightly incorrect total recommendation because I wasn't totally adding all of the cards every single time I battled, which is a unique characteristic, which is going to allow you to combo your deck-driven deck builder in this game with your asymmetric characters as you're traversing sort of a little layout map as you reveal cards and make them match up to create a unique map every time you're playing. And then also to combo chain the enemies in sort of a slightly adjacent Marvel Champions situation where you actually put them out and you have to then fend them off in a, you know, individual manner. I really like the sense that you can take an action or however many actions that you want, then anyone else around the table can take as many other actions. And so you're not constrained by like, okay, I have to take my full turn and then you have to take your full turn, and it goes back and forth. And, you know, the combat is the main thing that I want to see more of, because I didn't have all of the like 7 or so different types of minions. I only had Cthulhu as the main boss, and there's going to be 3 main old ones or bosses in the box, just the core box alone. And so the other dynamic is that it really is going to be a 1 to 3 player count. And does that work for you? And I don't mind that, actually. 2 or 3, it was relatively nice. And it's going to be a little bit quicker just by the nature of the card-driven combo gameplay that you have as you're creating it. The only thing I didn't get to experience as well in that regard was that, you know, the buying and the upgrading and more of the market that's going to be available wasn't really ready for the prototype either. So those are the things that, again, like I said in my video, in you know, I still stand by, that I want to see what it can do, because I think the potential is really good, but the execution has to be really good. And so that's why you need to be aware of it. And you can check out my video. I did a combination video with the Black Orchestra style of things with the Valkyrie expansion, which I'll talk about later. And it's truly cooperative, right? I like the synergies because you're also going to have relics that you can use in between you, that you can use in a Marvel Champions-esque vibe way, where you have to discard cards to be able to play cards, because when you discard cards, they have energy values, and the energy values that they take to play are also the energy values that you gain if you discard them. And then those also can be saved up and stored for your relic, or relic as a special ability. But then you can also have a relic in between you and one of the people in the game. And if you both have it charged up, then you can get an extra effect. And so all of the characters are unique and asymmetric that I had 4 of them, and you're going to be just upgrading and going along. And so I think this one has great potential. I love the idea of this as a whole, right? So if you're looking at something more of a horror style Slay the Spire, This has vibes of that. And so I don't know much else, though, beyond Cthulhu and a little bit of Dunwich. Didn't get to do the Dunwich Horror, the Father Dagon, and the Mother Hydra, and the Nightmare expansion. So I really want to see what this final product looks like, because I think this could be something stand out and really people would be happy with. And yeah, right? Echoes of Darkness expansion here. Ooh, Cthulhu socks. The one thing you don't know about me on this channel, the one thing I really don't talk about on this channel, is that I actually, you can't see it right now, I actually wear compression socks and crazy socks all the time. And so that's the thing that sets me apart from all of your other content creators in the board game side of things as a whole. And that's a really good price, actually. I did not look at the pricing before this. 50 euros for the core and the Nightmare expansion. That is a good bargain. And 89 though for the deluxe box. That's a big jump up, but that's gameplay all in. So I do like that the gameplay all in is still under $100. Yeah, there you go. Synergic Games. Bunch of stretch goals here too. Wow, you're getting a good value with this one. And I don't say that a lot on crowdfunding nowadays because I think it's very hard to tell, but that seems like it could be something really good. And it is a well-rounded product already. But could it achieve higher? That's what I'm hoping for out of it. We'll see where it goes, and it's going to end soon. So it has a couple days left at the time of me filming this. And what are we at right now in terms of funding? You know what? I'm actually surprised it's not higher than this. And so I think this is one that if you're looking for something a little bit different, a little bit under the radar, and it's going to surprise a lot of people, this would be potentially one of those on the short list, especially this month. There you go. Check it out. You know what? Speaking of it, I had to go over to it now. Black Orchestra Resistance expansion, Valkyrie standalone game. The Valkyrie standalone game, if you're familiar with Black Orchestra, this is a game where you kill Hitler. You kill Hitler by rolling dice with the targets on them before you run out of time, essentially. And Black Orchestra is a really fantastically slightly different cooperative nature game where you're traversing around the areas that are open to you, having event cards that are your round timers, and you know, your typical I get to go and then the bad thing goes and the events that go along with it. But then you're also gonna be drawing these bad cards that basically make you choose either one bad thing, second bad thing, or roll a die and maybe get neither bad thing. But if you also have the probability to not in your favor already and you roll poorly, then you have to do both of the bad things instead. Hitler and his minions are going to be moving around the map, affecting you. You're going to be raising suspicion of your character as you're doing the good actions that are going to be helpful for you, which is also going to potentially land you in jail. The Valkyrie style things, if you're familiar with the Black Orchestra, is a lot more simplified and streamlined and plays in under half an hour. You can play it as a family-wide game, but it's also a lot more, well, random. It doesn't have as much of a location system, but the location system that it does have are just basically you move around in between and you're going to have an item that you have to access. But similarly, you're going to have to end up with dice at the end of the game in order to roll enough of them to get the symbols that you need in the first place. The item system, the ally system is slightly different. I really liked it. My kids really liked it. And so it's a lot more streamlined. The Resistance expansion offers you 3 different modules in different ways in order to, one, make the game a little bit tougher, but then also to give you more of the allies that are actually used in the Valkyrie, which I think is the standout component and mechanic of the actual standalone game in the first place. And it incorporates that in a nice way, but then it also gives you quests as well as the third expansion, which gives you basically a smarter bad guy. So the bad guys are always just randomly moving around based on the event cards that you may be drawing. But then the third module gives you a smart bad guy in the sense that they're going to follow you around. They're going to follow the person with basically the closest or the highest suspicion. So that's what you're getting here. And what are the price points for this? I didn't actually see earlier. $58 for Resistance and Valkyrie. That's a bit more. The $29, ooh, that's a pretty decent price for an expansion. Shipping, okay, take it for what it is. When I looked at this previously, I didn't understand the importance of the conspirator packs, and they're basically cards that are your conspirators that give you a slight asymmetric power, and you're going to have to not only raise your loyalty, but also raise your suspicion and balance out those two in the base game. You have a lot less of managing both of those in the Valkyrie standalone, which makes it a lot more streamlined and a lot more simple, but it's going to be too simple for people as well. But I like the fact that you can get more conspirators, because that's probably the one thing I would say that I really wanted more of in both of them as a whole. So shipping is going to be what's going to be. And again, it raised almost $200,000. So go late back it if you're interested. Now, G.I. Joe Operation Cobra from OC Games. OC Games, who has no other games out ever. And this is a heavy debate going on over the Board Game Geek forum section. They deleted a bunch of comments because people were getting a little bit too aggressive in the comment section. And, well, rightly or wrongly so, because there's concern about who is OC. Are they Knight models? They definitely have a Hasbro license, because backers actually reached out to Hasbro to confirm that. But there's this weird sort of sleuthing going on right now of saying one of the people in charge of this campaign is one of the heads of Knight Games, and the address that they found that was on file for this company is a Knight Games headquarters. Anyway, right? So there are some concerns with the previous night games situations that they put out previously, but they came out in the comment section and they flat out said we're not associated with them, but it wasn't exactly in that full wording, so there left some ambiguity. So you've got a lot of people going back and forth in that regard. It's, you know, a skirmish game, miniatures with G.I. Joe. And that makes some people very nostalgic, and that also makes some people trepidatious. It is, apparently, as you can see, the exclusive label everywhere. Pretty much Gamefound only, they're saying. And that begs the question with this, and this is where people are debating, right? Are you willing to go in on this and just kind of see? Are you that nostalgic for this? Reading through the rule book, looking at what they've got going on, just like, you know, a couple of these other games, the question with these skirmish-style miniature Cthulhu-esque may die campaign scenario-linked chapter games, what makes it that much different? It's dice-based, get 2 actions, take one of your 5 main actions, go up against Cobra, have to play 4 characters on a game-by-game basis, almost no matter what the player count, ish. Don't quote me on that. It, you know, does give you a slight variance there if you want to use like 3, I guess. But that's the question. And rulebook is there, and miniatures are there, and so are the expansions. Cobra's finest. Then you also are getting Enter the Ninjas, and you're getting Dreadnoks, and they're giving you Cobra's Revenge. Oh, we get Serpentor. Yeah, I watched the old G.I. Joe. That's why I've said on this channel numerous times that no one has ever caught, and knowing is half the battle. Yeah, I'm that guy. There's your Legions of Cobra as well, giving you more troopers of a different variety, and the stretch goals in addition, right? Mix and match. But mechanically speaking, when I was glancing through this 50-page rule book prior to the video, I didn't really see anything mechanically speaking, see, there it is, exactly to show me why I would get this over any of the other that fall in this category. I didn't see anything dramatically different or unique. So if you're nostalgia-based and you love the IP, you know, this might be something up your alley. But if you're looking for something that fits in your collection that doesn't already have a spot filled and you like this type of game, well, I didn't exactly see that. And yeah, you can do all of the mixing and matchings that you want. Campaigns, standards, skirmish, one-offs, you know, link together, whatever you want. And it's dice-based skill checks and then dice-based combat in order to battle. And you go until you get through the mission. So I'm going to leave that there. I can't speak any further, but there's a lot of conversation over on the Board Game Geek forums if you want, and even some of it still up in these comment section. But the lowest price point, even to get in at this point, is $125. So are you willing to gamble? And the tricky part here, and this is what astute people saw, this is the Sergeant Pledge. Oh, look at all these boxes. That's not actually everything. And it doesn't say that it's everything, so it's not, you know, false advertising, but it's definitely like, oh, if you're not passing the eye test and looking carefully, you could have a little bit of problem. Sort of like, you know, when people on eBay say you're only buying the game box, not actually the game. You know, they say the box, some people just don't pay attention. So be aware, tons of stretch goals. But I think the other thing I saw in the comment section scanning through this is a lot of Cobra, a lot of Cobra, and less G.I. Joes that they were clamoring for. Again, you know, splitting dice in that sense, a few videos as well of unboxings and a playthrough, but that's what I'm going to leave it at. And that is G.I. Joe Operation Cobra. And with all of those issues and concerns, it's still got, what, over $500,000? Yeah, so give it a look-see. Then Reichbusters Reloaded. We're going straight into this one too, because similarly but differently, right? There's a few little nuances here, but it's the same basic concept. And I like the fact that they included the what has changed, except for the fact that they threw it like literally 80% way down on the campaign page. And they give you a nice list of changes here. But notice how these changes are in a completely other different font than everything else is blown up on the page. Yeah, actually, you know what, tongue-in-cheek here, they do give a little bit of the breakdown if we go down here past their little gameplay overview, which, again, I'll give you kudos. And they actually talk about it up here with some of those changes. Where is it? Not the move, not the attack. It is the noise activation that happens with these characters. And the basic concept, again, is very similar. Dice-based, upgrading your weapons. You know, use the Vril, which is their special, unique aspect, which upgrades your dice and gets you more dice into the dice pool and gives you stronger weapons. But these are the two main changes right here. The noise rule only applies during the pre-alarm phase, but you're basically just going up a tracker now instead of having to manage it individually. And then also the mission tracker moves forward 1 square, and then you have alarms triggered that way. That's the main difference. Otherwise, you can kind of see here what you're going to be doing and seeing how, sort of like we saw with our Normandy, if you're familiar with that when I covered that at the end of the last year, is you have these inactive face down enemies and they get flipped face up and they get determined to what they're going to be doing, and they're going to move and attack, and then they're going to call reinforcements at the end of the turn where they actually draw a card and determine what happens. The other main difference that they say with the original one versus this one is you all get to take your turn, so it's not like a constant back and forth, you go, they go, you go, they go, you go, they go. It's everybody does their turn, and then the enemy goes, which, you know, I do like as a preference overall. Like, I don't mind the other, but I like that overall speaking. So it gives you enough of an overview. There's one preview video and one gameplay video down here if you want to see. But I guess I'm wondering if people are really enamored with this, if this one's flying completely under the radar. I mean, it's got $200,000. But this was, I think, a relatively hot property the first time it came around. Yeah, just out of curiosity, I had to pull up the page here, and it got almost $1 million when it went back in, what, like 2020? So that's a big difference, but, you know, they have 12 days. They can make up $700,000 in 12 days. No biggie from that aspect. Continuous stretch goals, though. Let's see. You're going to get vouchers that will increase in value up to 30 euros. So is that for this campaign, or is this just for anything? So essentially, if they hit a bunch of stretch goals, you can get some maybe free add-ons. Is that kind of what it's saying? But I don't really see any add-ons in this campaign. It's just the Reloaded Pledge and the Veteran, if you have the previous all in, it's expansion and an upgrade, or the owner of the previous upgraded everything, but also the miniatures. So yeah, you're getting you're getting a 30 euro discount for their web shop. It's sort of like, you know, Bed Bath & Beyond or one of those stores sending you like 5 of their $bucks in the mail. Well, 5 of the $bucks isn't going to buy you anything. So you inevitably go in there and spend like 30, and yeah, they really gain $25 of sales that you never would have done in the first place. So when I see this now as 160 euros, nearly over $200 shipped to North America, plus or minus, who knows how much that's going to increase with the tariffs by the time you get it. You know what? It'll be fine. It's going to come to you in a year and a half. That's a lot more money for what this is offering right now. So I am not enamored with this, with what they're putting in the core box from that aspect, because that is a huge price point increase, considering when you flop back over here to the Reichbusters originally, and you get $200 for the base game and 2 expansions, plus a Doors pack, plus all the stretch goals there. That's a big difference. So we know inflation. I'm not going to argue that. We just saw that with the Nintendo Switch. And again, if you link it just to inflation, as people said, it makes you look smart because there is some tie-in, but that's not the sole thing. There's also other factors at play here, and I wonder how much that is. But 200 minis, I guess, right? Good deal. Good deal for all you painters. Give it a look-see. I remember covering Spark Riders 3000 when it came around, but now you're getting Galactic modules here, over $100,000 with 1,000 people. That's, you know, a lot of people coming back for Arcada Studios' next game, and it's 100% exclusive, never available in retail. Well, is that an asterisk? I can't read that, right? That's ambiguously worded that it's not going to show up in retail, or is it going to show up in like a web shop or something? Anyway, but you get some modules to go along with this sort of FTL style video game, board game, if you will. And you have aliens basically surrounding and attacking your ship, and you get to take your actions on a turn-by-turn, sort of cooperative nature, like I mentioned. The enemies go, and then the good guys go, as you maneuver between the different rooms on the ship in the first place in order to coordinate your defense, take out the enemies, upgrade your quarters, keep it repaired, and not get destroyed before you can take them out. It is app-driven, though, so you need to be aware of that. Now, I'm not sure if that's completely, utterly necessary for app-driven, but that is a heavy element of things. It sort of reminds me of Mission Catastrophe, if Mission Catastrophe was on steroids, if you're familiar with that game from Cardboard Alchemy. And it looks cooler, to be honest with you, too. But I think there's a lot more going on with this than Mission Catastrophe as well. They give you a little bit of stretch goals here, 5th player mode, and a bunch of other gameplay as well as deluxification content. If you wanted to get it now, too bad. They've already sold all those. You can look at the smart people on the internet and get all of their thoughts as well about how maybe this is the other dark horse in this video. The rule book is here. I've got it pulled up right here so you can kind of see exactly what you're doing here. The aliens are going to circle you around. If you happen to be in the room defenses with the turrets or the lasers, you can attack them back as they're doing that. And then you go on to your own phase, taking your own actions, movements, and help per person. Piloting, again, as you move around, you're going to be taking your actions. And again, it's a slightly more flexible player count, they say, than some of the other ones I just mentioned in the skirmish style crawl games, because you don't have to have 4 people manning the ships and the guns and the turrets, so you can do it at lesser, because that would be my biggest concern with this, is the scaling. And if it scales really well, that could be really, really good. I mean, this is tower defense survival-esque, if you will, more than anything else. It only has 200 ratings on Board Game Geek at the time of me filming this because it isn't that widely available. It wasn't backed by a lot of people in the first time around. But to get over 100,000 for a game that you probably have never heard of, that I barely remembered until I saw it and kind of looked into it, that's really good the second time around. So I give them a lot of kudos. What are you getting here, though, with the actual modules? Because that's where I don't see it really highlighted. Let's check it out right now. That's weird. When I scroll back up here, previews is actually the review. So that's a little wording issue, but let's see. Do you want the all-ins? Do you want the modules? Why backing now? All the Gamefound blah, blah stuff. The expansion content right here. But what are you actually doing with the expansion content? 2 turret slots for double firepower, a new hacking deck, a new radar and cafeteria deck, and prosperity module to allow you to trade your gear in, and then boosting speed with extra thrusters. Oh, okay. So a little bit of the just better stuff, and new missions because it's mission-based as well. There you go. Few extra deluxifications if you really like that sort of thing. What is the price here for the all-in? Woo! That's spicy, but that's all the deluxified ones. Well, that's 71 euros for the expansion deluxification, but can you get just the core box without all the deluxifications here? I guess that's what this pledge is for 125, so that's still a little bit of a spicy meatball. But again, it's where you want to spend your indie money more than anything else. And you know what? Screw it. I'm going to put this one on my wish list. There you go. Now we go back to Red Raven, $182,000. Again, like we got many, many $100,000 campaigns on this video. So that's awesome. Hey, by the way, did you see Tekken at the top? Tekken, go on board, call me. Anyway, 6 Sojourns, right? Sorry, easily distracted squirrel. And this is a reimagining of their 3rd published game, 8-Minute Empires, with a new thematic approach, as well as 6 different map boards and a bunch of little mini expansions you can use to customize this or create your own campaign. If you're not familiar with this game as a nutshell, I really wish they would have put more outlined mechanics of what you're doing actually on the page, but the rulebook is only 16 pages and is a relatively easy read, so I can explain it to you relatively quickly. What you do is you line up a row of cards, i.e. your market, along one side of the board, and they're going to be valued in terms of buying them from 0 to 4, and you're going to be spending your gold on a turn-by-turn basis in order to get them, which they will then give you actions as well as special ability icons that are going to be collected in addition for end game scoring purposes. They're going to be moving around, gathering towers, collecting things, moving people, getting boats, all of those sorts of aspects in a area majority style game as one of the other main driving mechanisms. Like I mentioned, sitting in front of me right now, you can see that they have 6 different maps that are going to be available for different variability in that way, 126 cards, which is more than you're going to ever see in one game, as well as multiple different little expansions that are going to give you customization of whatever variety that you want to include on a game-by-game basis. The deluxe edition, they're saying, is only going to be offered right now during the campaign from them. But retail, if you don't want a bunch of that stuff or you're okay without some of the mini expansions, it'll probably be similar to Creature Caravans where, you get the package, but then if you didn't get the crowdfunding support, you're going to wait months and months and months maybe for the other gameplay content. So that's going to be the big thing. I'm actually relatively impressed by this because all it is a simple 9-round situation where you grab 9 cards and the game is done. And those meaty decisions, meaty men slapping meaty men. Sorry, random WWE reference there. Big E. He's an awesome guy, by the way. And then you're getting essentially those cards making your, not, I don't want to say tableau, but just your action system that you've incorporated on a turn-by-turn basis. And you go until everybody has 9 of them. So that's it. And if you spend all your money based on the slots of cards you're buying because you want the ones that are costing more, then you're going to run out of money, and then you have to buy the one in the 0 slot every time, which is going to affect your decision making going forward. There you go. That's it. Seems like a good game. Again, I guess more of the question is just whether or not you want to get it on crowdfunding with some of the extras and some of the add-ons. I guess what actually happened, though, per reading some comments, is that they didn't even have this pledge level, is kind of what I was reading initially at the launch of the campaign. So they added this on in as if you just want the gameplay, because I guess it was maybe like only the retail version and the super deluxe get everything upgraded aspect of things, which again, you listen to people, get it. Ooh, Wanderers. Oh, how much is it going to cost me for shipping just for Wanderers? Because I want Wanderers. Ooh, those Sea Serpent sets, though. Those are kind of cool looking meeples. You know, again, Team Standee, Team Meeple. But there you go. Stretch goals. What are you getting here? Are these just wooden upgrades? Yeah, just wooden upgrades for components. New game board and 18 cards, though. How close are we to $200,000? Okay, Red Raven. Okay. Oh, we're going to get there. 10 days left. Go back this one again. It's another indie hit. Give a look-see. I'm going to go check out Tekken right now. Gosh, we're eating well because this next one up, Qu'arz, is kind of a unique capture the flag style game. I'm not a huge fan of the miniatures because I think that's just a deluxification in this situation that may not need it. But I really like the concept of this. But it also has sort of, for me personally, I love the idea of this game. The actuality of it, I would like to see in person. This is sort of as a hands-on try before I buy feel, if you will. 2 to 4 players, 25 minutes a player, seems really kind of cool because you've got these 4 different factions with this modular hex-based map setup that you can set up differently every single time. You choose your faction, then you draft 3 of the 4 monsters that are available to you, and you move them out trying to capture the flag and bring it back to your own base in order to win. Or if you can't do that, you then score at the end of the game if you run out of time, based on your achievements along the way. And because it's miniatures, though, that's a lot of price, right? 129 euros. Special edition gets you 16 monsters, 4 new mobs, 25 more miniatures, and a little bit expansion content. The light edition standees, right? Is that actually getting me light edition, special edition standees? No, just miniatures. Can I get the standee version? You know, again, if you're going to put this at the top, I'm going to talk about it instead of actually talking about your game mechanics as a whole, right? Can I get the standee version with all of the other expansion content? Well, let's go down and see. Core box standee, miniature version core box. Whoa! All of their other games for $1,000. Fully painted stuff for way too much money. And it doesn't appear that I can get the expansions without the miniatures, at least from what I can tell, right? Let's go to add-ons, though. Yep, nope, can't. Okay, so that'd be the issue, I guess, more than anything else. I like the idea of this. The mechanics in the rulebook are on here. We'll go back up to the how to play as we're skipping around. Like I mentioned, choose your mob. Choose 3 of your different monsters right there. You get to upgrade them, and you can even unlock their special abilities as you're going along. The arena with the fully modular crazy maze setup, and then what you're doing is trying to capture it, bring it back, and if it hits 0, well, get most of the points. The favor cards are a nice little twist as well, not just random events for random events' sake at the beginning of the round, but choosing when you want your event. If you want to go first, you're going to get a smaller favor. If you want to go last and deal with the ramifications of everyone else going before you, you're going to get a bigger bonus. Move, smash, shoot, shine, or crunch your own cards because you can play them to get their abilities, or you can feed your monsters their own cards in order to help them upgrade later so that they can take their special abilities. As you can see, all of these are costing energy, and you have to use your resources wisely in order to avoid getting knocked out along the way if you choose to spit out and use them too quickly. There you go, unlocking your ultimate and playing on other people's turns, doing some take that head-to-head awesomeness. So again, you can see why I really kind of like the idea of this, but as a miniature driven, probably 3 times the price point I want to pay for this style of game, I'm almost rather getting like, you know, Super Fantasy Brawl or something similar in that regard. And I can get Super Fantasy Brawl sooner. So that'd be why I'd say, okay, just like I said earlier, going to add something to my wish list, but I'd like a hands-on before I'd say, okay, you know what, I'm going to spend $100+ on this as a whole. But you know what, it wasn't on my radar before, and I give them kudos, and they're over 200% funded. So there you go. Give them a look-see. Tell them Leaf sent you. Adventurous, pocket-sized game of discovery from your folks over at Button Shy, and $22,000. Again, killing it here. This is actually a multiplayer game, not just a solo game from Adventurous. And what you're doing is you're exploring these map cards, basically laying them out and doing the sort of the grid matching that we've seen with several other card games over the past couple years, where you're overlapping them to create a path, to create symbols in order to discover by fulfilling requirements based on what you're being able to coordinate down in that grid in the first place. You go until, well, you can't place any more cards and you've placed down as many as you can. As always with the Button Shy, you're going to be including included expansion here to give you additional map cards as well as a ship card that you can incorporate to make a super long adventure. Even though it's a button shot game, don't kid yourself, it's not gonna be super long, so I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Or you can swap out some of the original ones to give you a different customizable thing each time. $12 is going to get you it. So again, freaking awesome deal. And if you want some of their other solo stuff or multiplayer stuff, you can include that as well. A few other people's opinions who think it's really good as well. And then that's it, right? So I'm really pleased with this one. This one looks one of the best ones that I've seen in a long time, personally, from me speaking. But if you're not a solo junkie, it might not appeal as much, but it also might appeal because you can play it with more people. $22,000, give it a look-see. Okay. This one, Propeller Islands, I know sometimes I rag on Queen a little bit, but this one actually is from Stan Kordowski, and this one looks like one of the best ones I have seen Queen put out in a long time. And I think it's, you know, really because Stan puts out some pretty freaking awesome games. And this one is going to look very simple. It's going to look very straightforward, but I think it's got a couple elements that I really like in sort of a dice and worker placement situation. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to have an individual tableau of these workers right here, and you can roll dice, and you're going to have a dice pool. And what you're going to be doing on a turn-by-turn basis is either playing one of these workers, playing one of these dice, or activating everything in your tableau, because these hexes in the middle that you're going to be placing your workers and your dice down to, you're going to gather them into your own personal area. And then the third action you can take is you can activate your combo system that you're creating, because there's going to be 3 different elements of building types essentially that you're going to be utilizing. And the more you can combo them up, the more you can basically organize them and create your own individual tableau in that regard, is going to allow you to do more and clever things as you go along. You're going to be shrinking dice pool, new structures and resources that you're gathering along the way. And I really like this one as well. This one is probably one of my sleeper hits of the month already at this point, because I just think it looks very solid in terms of what you're doing. And the resources are all listed at the bottom. It's very straightforward, but the dynamic and the actual strategy is going to be deeper based on the setup, because you can change the setup and it's modular and they're hex based, and so you can put them all over. So you can get a bunch of Stan's other games as well as a bunch of their Queen games. The rulebook is on the page, and I'm very happy to see that it's funded. But you know what? Again, sleeper hit. Here you go. You heard it here first. Then Pirates of the High Teas, a game of piracy and pastry. Okay. I you know, cute and cozy, fine. That's not the main attribute to attract me to a game. And you know what? There's a quote or two on this page that I'm not going to single out and I'm not going to highlight, but that doesn't mean anything. Cozy has absolutely no definition, meaning for a board game. Make quotes better. Pink Hawk Games, though, this does look like a solid game because it's also from the designer of Calico. So it actually has some legs. So essentially what you're doing is you're placing your workers down in any worker placement spot that you want at the beginning of the game in the 3 sections of the pirate ship. And the 3 pirate ship sections are going to be determining what sort of resources or cards you're gathering, because one of them you're going to be feeding the captain. That's the 3rd space. The 2nd space is you're going to be gathering the ingredients or the food cards in order to smash them together to pattern match and set collect in order to then, well, feed the captain. The first one is that you're doing tea sets, because that's where the tea comes in. The tea is going to be quests, essentially, that you're going to earn money and gold from, which are your victory points as well, based on the combinations of those set collections that you're doing in order to feed the captain, in order to, well, you know, kind of score points in the first place. And so that combination of things is going to be going on. The board is going to have a sort of dynamic sequencing that is going to affect where you may want to place them. Chris, I want to place in the first worker placement spot. However, no, you may not, because as you place later in the order of operations, you may actually get to draw 2, maybe even 3 cards from the market in the first place. But the market in this game does not refill between rounds, so you have to be very careful over these 9 rounds that you don't go too far back, because if it doesn't refill, then you just have to draw off the top. You'll still get cards, but you may not get the ones that you may have wanted in the first place, then optimizing not as much as you'd want. And you can also place in the turn order initiative to determine who gets to place the next round as well. And you're going to have a few things that you can basically just smash up together card-wise, because there's going to be 3 different essential, like really more 2 different ways that you can score. You can score on the top of the card, the bottom of the card, or if you match both the top and the bottom of the card, then you get the middle bonus. So you may get 4 gold for the same colors of the food items. You may get 3 gold for having 1 of each of the ingredients that's necessary. But if you can match the color and the ingredients, well, then you may get 9 gold. See how I did that? 4 plus 3 is 9. 4 plus 3 is not 9 if you're paying attention. You're not paying attention, though. Let me know down in the comment section. Write 4 plus 3 equals 9, and I will love it. But that's what you're getting, right? So it benefits you to do both, but you have the time to do both over the 9 rounds as you're gathering these cards, because you have a very limited set collection style of things that you're doing. So again, awesome looking mechanical family weight, but enough complexity. It gives me sort of Let's Go to Japan vibes, if you will. I'm not saying mechanistically it's the same, but I'm saying it's got that same depth that is surprisingly hidden based on the simple mechanisms that you're utilizing in the first place, just like Let's Go to Japan did. So if you're looking for another sleeper hit, that's why I'm including all of these at the beginning. You want some random quotes, you want to see people get paid to talk about a game, you can look on this page. You got plenty of that, and so you can give it a look-see and see how you feel about it. But that's why it's doing really good. And truth be told, I think it looks like a solid product. Now, price-wise, I mean, that's where you kind of got to have to ask yourself, $39 for this plus the expansion, probably not a bad deal. If you want to deluxify it, though, it's going to over double the cost. So I'd say if you really like it, you get it now with the expansion, and you pay whatever the shipping is going to be, because shipping is going to be, well, let's see, estimated price. Oh, if you're not in North America, I'm sorry. And if you're in North America, it's still going to run you, well, it's going to run you about $55. So do you risk it or not? So that's the thing you have to think about, especially with all these awesome tariffs, because there's nothing like putting tariffs on the whole world. Yeah, good for our economy. Not. Next game. Keyside. I can't tell you the differences between this. I've never played a key game, right? I know, I probably should have played the most famous one, but this is the next in the standalone key games from Breeze and Turksy. And yeah, Turksy's putting out solo mode for this one at $76,000. And it's the latest standalone one. And there's a rule book, and there's a deluxe starter kit, and you get deluxe wooden meeples. Basically, you've got harbors that you're going to be steering boats towards as you follow other people's actions, and meeples as they go along, gathering the resources and upgrading them and doing your worker placement style thing. They've got this very, well, it's very complete in terms of how a turn order is actually going to happen, but you're not really going to get a great sense of the flow looking at this, right? Because it doesn't tell you sort of what you're moving it to, placing your sailors, it's just basically descriptive, and it's not really explanatory, and that's the big issue. But there is a rule book, and there's a solo mode, so I'd say definitely click on that. Or better yet, go watch the tutorial over here from Gaming Rules. That's probably the best thing. Watch Paul's video. Ignore anything I say. If you're a big fan of this one and a little bit of a heavier worker placement style, go give it from R&D Games. And yes, I probably should have played Keyflower by now, but I haven't. But I wanted to highlight it because it's doing some good things. And I guess the only thing I can say is I know that all of the key games aren't considered like necessarily all as good as each other. So is this one going to be better? I think it looks more solid. I think it also looks slightly more complex in some of the following actions, but there you go. That's Keyside. LUDOS is back with their third continent of games, and this again is another 4-pack. $137,000 is what you're getting here, and 4 games that are reminiscent of abstract style games that you may be familiar with from their previous collections right here. And you can deluxify them and give you a slight overview as you're going along. You are getting a mighty puma to capture 6 alpacas, or you want the alpacas to conquer the puma's den as you're moving them across the board in a very similar goat versus tiger style from their first game. And then you have the second one where you're just doing Mayan combat, where you're essentially trying to slowly capture your opponent's pieces as you make your way across. The third one, Konane from Hawaii, is basically a game of jumping, and you jump and jump and jump until somebody can't jump, and if you can't jump, then you lose. And then the last one, Zuni, is you're capturing again in a very similar way, only with a more aggressive war style. I'm not going to mispronounce this one, but here, this is the last one up. And you know what? You can mispronounce that one in the comment section with me. It's sort of Zerts meets checkers, if you will. If you're next to the pieces of your opponents, you have to jump them. You have to jump in the straight line. You combo them. You got to checker them. And if you capture all of your opponents, you win. If you're trapped and unable to move, you win. If neither player is able to make any more captures, or you play the same move 3 times in a row, then it's a stalemate. That's the game in a nutshell. Again, I mentioned the sheep versus goat one that I backed in the first campaign. This one here, Komikan, is very similar, only it's a puma and an alpaca. Essentially, you either capture the alpacas, or you get all your alpacas to occupy the den as you mix, match, and checker style as well. That's the basic gist of it in what you're doing. So then Konane, you have 2 different colored pieces of your flower jumping, and what you're going to be doing is just jumping over the other person's. But if you can't jump over the other person's, you lose. You can combo chain, if you will, just like that one, but until you can't go, this game goes on. Different board sizes, mini expansions to give it a little bit of variability, and again, very straightforward abstract style game. Last but not here, Puluc. You're throwing corn kernels and then moving your characters across, capturing enemy warriors until you capture all of your opponent's warriors, or eliminating them by taking them back to the home city. First player to eliminate or capture all of their opponents as you're strategically moving them across is going to win, because based on what the kernel is doing determines how many spaces a player can move. And so that's going to be the main dynamic abstract nature there with that one. So again, they're trying to preserve these ancient games, give you an opportunity to play them and get any of the ones that suit you. But again, like I mentioned, they are abstract in nature. there you go. You got a little couple mini expansions with a little bit of unique tokens for each of the add-ons. You can get the individual standalone games, or you can get some of their previous ones. Again, the biggest thing I say with all these multi-game campaigns is only get the ones that you want. Don't buy a bundle deal because it's a better quote-unquote deal. Get them because they fit your abstract style nature. That is the common theme between all of these. And again, just like at the beginning of the video, you should have this by the end of the year. So that is freaking awesome. Thank you, Lemery Games, for doing that. And you know what? Support them if you want. If you like this style of things, give them a look-see. Misfit Heroes from AEG, and now this is a redoing of this game, or a reimagining of it in the first place. Essentially what you're doing is you get to create these little cards at the beginning of the game with attributes and characters, and you slot them together using the clear card system that AEG uses, and then you basically draw and draft, and you play up until somebody fills their 4x4 grid of these characters to combo chain the points that they are worth along the way. There's going to be a cost in the upper left-hand corner, and then you have a certain amount of gold that you can spend on a round-by-round basis, and you just go until you're done. Now, the tricky part with this is you do combine these all at the beginning, and then you get to just mix and match them in between the games. So it's not like you're actually doing it within the game system. It's that it's done beforehand, meaning that, yes, the character cards are going to be the same if you don't change them in between games, and so it's going to be in between game management more than anything else, but that's where all of these combinations come from. You get a little deluxified upgrade tokens, because the other aspect of this game is that you're going to be utilizing these 3 resources in order to grab the quest tiles, either by having 6 of a certain type or 2 of each type in order to grab the highest point values here, because this is also going to play into the point totals that you're going to get from the character cards in addition. And so it's going to be the sum total of whoever has the most of that at the end of the game when your 4x4 grid is done. Maximum Absurdity gives you a cleric expansion to give you more cards, as well as upgraded playmats and sleeves and tokens. If you're a fan of AEG's clear card system, this is another one in that realm, and it's relatively straightforward. It reminds me a little bit of Castle Combo, although I like the cleanness of Castle Combo and I like the setup and teardown, but this is going to be not too much different from that one. So if you were a fan of that, this gives me a little bit of those vibes, and so that's why we're talking about it. And it is 500% funded, because percent matters, right? Nope, just kidding. Next game. Nawalli! I covered this one. I think this is a great game. However, the learning curve in this game is the most significant portion because of all the iconography, and they've simplified it out with the 3rd edition cards, and so I really like to see that. I wanted to give it a little special attention too, because there's also gonna be a little mini expansion to go along with this. 7,500 of a $3,000 goal, and this is truly indie. And also, you know what? You're gonna say that Chris doesn't have it. Chris has it. It's sitting right here. I covered it. I did a video on it as a multi-game review, and that's the biggest thing, right? Like, it's a little bit of quality as an indie publisher. They upgrade the stones, because the stones that I have to mark like who wins, because you have to get like all 13 stones that are in the middle in order to win. You fight in a lane battling situation to take out your opponent, but your opponent can combine, just like you can, your monsters, as well as have add-ons and spells that are going to be utilizable, because again, it's going to be a similar discard in order to play situation down in the lanes, and it's got cool combos, but there are lots of iconography that go along with it. The 40 cards new expansion deck is pretty cool, and they don't even make you actually build it if you don't want to. You can customizable draft before every game, but you don't have to. They can give you starter decks, and you can customize it a little bit that way. And if you don't believe me, well, Shut Up and Sit Down loved it too. So again, I know what I'm talking about occasionally, right? $20 is the new expansion, $45 is the revamped edition. But again, this is a game you cannot get on the secondary market. This is a game you cannot get from regular retail. So this is the only place you're going to be getting it, and you're going to be paying a slight premium because of some of these upgrades. I like the fact that, again, they took this out right here. The shield basically gives you an extra life here. You have to remember that. They just said, okay, here you go. Because what you do is you slot these cards over on top of each other, and then on the left side over here, the red is how much attack it has. Then the green is, or the teal, whatever you want to call it, is how much extra health it gives your characters, because then these are your character cards right here, and so you layer them underneath or over top depending on how you're doing it with the characters versus the items. And so these are the iconography that you see at the bottom, and it has just this whole list of, let's see if I can find a view of it on the page, but you can see here on the cards, right? Like all of these iconography at the bottom, they all mean different things. And so the intuitiveness of them is not necessarily there. And that's the biggest thing you have to ask yourself is, can I learn all of these? Can I remember them? Can I play it enough in order to, well, streamline it? Because otherwise you're looking up stuff a ton, and that's the breaking of immersion. That was the big criticism for me in this game as a whole. The stones are less all over the place. They're more uniform, which is also a huge improvement, but that's probably probably the biggest price point increase that you're paying for. There's the cards, the rules codex, and he's upgraded that too. So I give a lot of kudos. Those are my main criticisms, and they're addressed. It's just going to cost you a prettier penny, and you can summon and adventure mode, and ooh, there's me. I didn't know that. Okay, there you go. Again, don't believe me. Go check it out on Board Game Geek and check it out, because Space Biff, as well as Shut Up and Sit Down, said it too. So I'm not totally taking crazy pills on this one, but that's why we're talking about it. Nawalli. And you know what? I really do like the artwork, actually. Get cursed. I mean, this is basically charades. This is charades only doing crazy things, because it says things like, pretend like you're attached to a ball and chain and you're drowning, and you have to do that until it comes to your turn again. And then if you do that, well, you get to keep that quest card, and then you get another quest card, and you have to do that plus the next quest card. You have to be doing them at all times. If someone sees you not doing it, then you lose it. And so you go until like someone achieves like 3 quest cards, and that's the mischief that all of these 125 cards are going to give you. You're going to have wards to like interact and steal other people's cards and replace them and change the gameplay. It's a little bit of dynamic take that too. And right, that's what you're going to be dealing with. So if you want early bird $30 to get this one, or Kickstarter edition $39, challenges and wards, and again, here's the example that I just gave you, right? You have to do that. And here's another example. Find and hide under a blanket, clothing, or covers, and play the game while exposing the bare minimum. So that's what you're going to be doing in this game as a whole. And if you like that sort of social dynamic style game, it's got $16,000 and it's funded, so give it a look-see. Raising rabbits! Do you want auction-based economy Euro-style action only as a rabbit breeder? Yeah, $60,000 says you can do it as well, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be slowly recruiting these rabbits in order to basically, well, show them off in a sort of pseudo-auction style bidding game, and well, get your scoring on in that way. So essentially, just pulling up the rulebook here so you have a better, quicker example of this, is you're going to be doing an auction at the beginning of every round, and you're going to be bidding how much you want to basically get that rabbit into your collection. And the second round of bidding is only dependent on if there's a tie in the first round. And then as you're going through, you're going to have the ability to play rabbit cards from your hand onto the unoccupied, and also making sure they're repaired pens as you swap the positions among them and create your combos as you're going along. Free actions are going to be based on the abilities that you have in addition, and then spending your action cubes, up to 3 of them, on a turn-by-turn basis in order to take the available actions before you're passing your turn along. Then the other tricky part I did not mention here is the starting player actually is the one determining the auction, and when you get to determine the auction, you get to draw 2 cards, you get to keep one of them and make everyone else, including yourself, bid on the second one. So that's the advantage of the first player in that regard, as you go around on a turn-by-turn, round-by-round basis. The actions that you can see on this page as drawn out in the rulebook here are dependent on where and how you want to utilize your board. You're going to have individual actions and abilities on these rabbits in order to combo chain. You're going to be able to draw goal cards in order to keep them to score the tasks and the reputation end game victory points that you need, or you can visit the market in order to get more rabbits, collect their poop. Yes, you're collecting their poop, repairing the pens because that's where you have to place them, entering the show based on what you have available to you. It wouldn't be a full rabbit game if you couldn't breed them in addition. After everybody has done their turns though, you do the monthly show, and it depends on what they've got styling wise and ribbon wise, determining who gets victory points that way. And then at the end of the last month, the game ends and you count up your score based on that. There's a slight change with 2 players, but that's the game in a nutshell. What's the price point for this, and what are the exclusives? Well, you get a little bunny expansion, you get some deluxe upgrades, and maybe a champion add-on. You can get your own rabbit drawn in that sense. That's not my appeal, but you know what? Go for it, because I see those pledge levels on other games for all the time of animals, including cats and dogs, so take that for what you will. $46 is a little expensive. I guess you're getting the stretch goals here, which are good. Let's see what the stretch goals actually are. Not much. Okay. So it's either deluxe or nothing right now. Super deluxe or nothing is $93. So yeah, you know what? If rabbits your thing and animals are your thing, this one might get a look-see. Otherwise, well, might not be for you. There you go. Zoo-On, a game I don't know how to play because it's $24,000. The rulebook for like a light family style game is like 350 or 500 megabytes. And then there's not really any explanation of how to play the game on the page. It's only $25 though. So if you want to get it, I would really suggest you read the rulebook. I'm being sarcastic here. It's not really that long and you can give it a look-see. You're basically the first one to get up to 50 points with these animal meeples as you're building your enclosures, stacking and laying these cards, and trying to match symbols as you set collect again, swapping these cards, jokers, and earning endgame bonuses based on what you're having to do quest-wise. Family mode as well from a tableau standpoint. So, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the artwork, but if the tableau action economy building system is as clever as they're making it sound, I think it could be something a little bit overachieving as well. Deluxified though, Deluxified gets you larger animeeples and 9 extra boost cards. Are 9 extra cards worth it for $3 and larger animeeples? Well, that's probably actually worth it. I wasn't expecting to say that. And they say you're going to get a deluxe expansion too if you want to include it and back on crowdfunding. So $25 for the base with the stretch goals, 39 Canadian or $28 for that. And what is this? $45 gets you the stretch goals. Oh, that's just brick and mortar. So the expansion just looks like it's included based off of the price points and the other lack of additional pledge levels over here. And you're getting a few extra gameplay contents with stretch goals. So that's kind of cool. Again, I'm going to have to go watch this video and download the rules after this, because I don't have a clear picture of what it's exactly doing. But you know what? Again, kudos. Small company before the end of the year. Let's do it. Let's freaking go. I love seeing this. This is more games in this video alone that are going to deliver this year than I've probably talked about for the whole year to this point. So thank you. Pandamonium, you're basically bribing and influencing the panda warlords that are available to you as the kingdom is chaos and somebody needs to take over. So these are your various panda pun characters that you can choose from. 5 of the lords and 2 of the usurpers, and you're trying to gather their favor tiles based on the tributes that you can get and win over as you're going along. The tier boards that they say here, it determines the random setup nature of the game in the first place, and they say they've deluxified it out, so there are no stretch goals. You're just getting the best, most quality product. This tier listing is going to determine what the order is as you're laying these down as well. And again, going over to the rulebook here, you can see that you're playing it over 4 rounds, and you reveal the top Pandamonium card, read it out loud. Special features on the card are decided and put out there before you're deciding which cards, and then special features of the card are utilized or taken into account before you're deciding which tribute cards you're going to play from your hand in order to, well, collect the favor that you're going to need. You're going to repeat steps 1 and 2 until you do all of the tribute cards, and then you get to exchange the tokens in terms of favor tiles, beginning with the starting player, and then you go on to the next round. So if that didn't make sense, what you've got going on here is these Pandamonium cards that are going to tell you exactly how many cards you're going to be playing down, and then you're also going to be doing things like passing your hand around and changing what's available to you. And as you're playing these cards, you place them face down. But there is going to be some take that, because some of these tribute cards you're going to play won't get you tokens. You'll actually get terracotta warriors that are going to fight, and then the person who lays down the most is going to win that fight in order to get the other tokens. And the nice thing and the tricky thing of this game is that these tribute tokens you're gaining, depending on who has the most, is going to get all of these, which are going to do slightly different things. As you can see, the most golden coins win the Golden Emperor. The Lotus Maiden actually occurs during the round, not at the end. Again, the player with the most Dragon Jade tokens is the person who gets the Jade Oracle. So the dynamics of how you're going to be gathering these is going to be, how do you want to press your luck? Which way do you want to go? Because then ultimately at the end of the game, after 4 rounds, if you have the most unique favor tiles, so all of these 7 you're going to be vying for, not just on an individual round, going after one after one after one, but you're going to have to get all of them. If you have the most, you win. And then depending on how that tier board is set out from left to right, if you have the one at the highest tier, or if like you have 5 of the 7, your opponent has 5 of the 7, then whoever has the one at the highest that the other person doesn't have, if I have 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, then if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, well, then you're going to beat me because you have higher ranking overall. There you go. And that's Pandamonium. So I like it from a little cute style of things. I think this would be a great family weight game for my family and I. And so I'm really intrigued by these more, especially with the more recent card-driven gameplays that we've been doing. It is a little expensive though. Standard edition, $39. That is a very expensive card game as a whole. $39 for that, $53 for the deluxe edition, which gets you wooden upgrades and limited box art, which I don't need, with a gold finish there as well. So I think that's good. But again, it's one of those where it's expensive for what it is, but it's an indie game, and you're probably not going to be able to pick it widely in the market unless it gets picked up by a bigger publisher. So do you risk it? Are you willing to support them? That's where your money meets the mouth. And that's why it's got $8,300 and it's funded. So give it a look, see, tell them Liege sent you. Then ZeroDay, a deck building dungeon crawler, $43,000. And the main element of this is you're going to be building your deck as a highly cooperative, asymmetric driven game with hacks and mods and items that you're going to be going and using against randomized enemies as you're fighting them. The nice unique mechanic that you can see here is these tiles that are equipped on your player boards, because you're going to have these tiles that are going to be utilized to play the cards in the first place that you need from your hand. And then if you have a certain set or certain matching down there, you get to flip them over, which means that you'll be able to play more combos, and you can keep doing that until you can't combo. You're going to be moving around though in order to play and go after the enemies that are going to be spawned as you're, well, dealing with all of the things that come along with you. But you're going to be having hacks, you're going to be having upgrades, and as you upgrade, you also allow other people to upgrade along with you, because when you draw, for example, here are your hacks, you get to choose and keep one. But then the parts that you're going to be upgrading and stealing basically from the enemies that you're killing as well. So again, right here, like I said, right, the mods. Permanently enhance your character. Each time you draw one more than the number of players. Each player gets to choose one to equip. There are 40 unique mods. The initiative phase that you're going through, you choose a card from your hand that you've already drawn, not only to determine when you go, but also determine how much threat that you're going to be basically being chased after or allocated towards you in terms of being the biggest threat, like it says. Turn order, enemy just moves towards you, uses their attack. You got to prepare, you got to use your actions and skills and hacks, and then you draw back up at the end. So I like this because it reminds me of Tamashii, only a lot more streamlined. Rulebook is right here. It's about 30 pages, so it's not a bad read. It's more streamlined. Again, I just worry about the dynamics and the asymmetry and the mechanics incorporating as a whole. Are all things going to be equal? And is it going to provide that depth of, well, gameplay that you want in the first place? I like the fact that they've got unique operations and, you know, different setups to go along with it. Again, I just worry it might be a little bit like Marvel Dice Throne X-Men's Missions, where there's a lot more upkeep that I'm not seeing just basically based on the page. But again, it's probably a watch the videos, read the rulebook, see how you feel about the complexity matching to the depth of gameplay and the cost point, because it's not inexpensive either here, $87 for the base game. And if you want miniatures, somehow $107, and all in is going to get you a little bit of deluxified acrylics as well as 2 character expansions. So do you need it all? Probably not. Would it be nice to have a few more? I'm sure. If you want to watch some reviews and some videos here, you can try it on the tabletop as well. And ooh, dog! Speaking of games that we're delivering soon, this game is not even going to be delivering until the end of 2026. That is a huge freaking production window, folks. That is a production window of 7 months. It doesn't take 7 months to, you know, actually do that. So my guess is they just don't want to tell you that it's actually going to be at the end of 2026, and this is their way of hedging their bets. And that's okay. I guess I'd rather have that than the opposite of you telling me it's going to be like delivered in February and then have it be November. I'd be a little bit more upset that way, but there you go. Give it a look-see. The folks behind Davy Jones's Locker. Okay, there you go. There you go, ZeroDay. Speaking open world games, Skull Tales Full Tale version 2 with expansions. Getting another $200,000. Just getting thrown around. No one cares about tariffs. Just kidding. I'm just joking with you guys. Epilogue and giving you more campaign, adventure, book, scenario-driven situations. You can link them together. You can play them one-off as well. The new expansion is going to give you voyage events, assignments, and new rumors for port phase adventures. This is an expansive game. Has an adventure phase, you negotiate, you've got your different characters that you're traversing with across the different areas of the board. I can't give this one enough of an overview to make you fully understand it from this aspect, but it has a rule book. There's some videos as well, and I'm starting to get tapped out here at the end. So that's why I'm going to let you guys really explore this one. But again, right, you're going to be hitting triple digits just to get this one on your shelf. Do you want some of the add-ons, diversifying with more expansion content there, new characters, miniatures, and cards from the previous, 2 new intertwined campaigns, more campaign stuff, more mega. So, I mean, they're just offering you a whole lot of stuff. You can spend $300+ on this one as well. And you know what? Screw it. We're going to Board Game Geek for this one because this is a nice synopsis of it. Semi-cooperative pirate adventure game, 1 to 5 players. Fame and fortune, adventure, journey, and port mechanisms, each unique within, giving you more of an RPG feel. Explorative in the adventure phase, where you go around to the different areas, gather treasure, find artifacts. Journey phase, giving you a crew that you're using to sail across in the first place. And then the port phase, where you get to spend stuff, listen to rumors, upgrade. And ooh, I didn't know they were Gamefound integrating now on the Board Game Geek page. Does that mean they're actually doing something to upgrade Board Game Geek? Gasp! I never would have believed it unless I saw it with my own eyes. Just teasing. Not really, though. Review videos, unboxing videos, preview videos, everything else that you may ever want. So this is one more so than almost anything else on this video today, I would say, is that you need to go watch the videos to get the sense of, again, you know, sort of like I said with G.I. Joe, what makes this one stand out from other open world RPG style sandbox games in this realm, especially because we've seen 2 or 3 of these other pirate ones in the last 2 or 3 years. This is originally a 2015 game. It's coming back around like with the 3rd time, essentially. This is more of a version 3, if you will. So let's see what they got. And they're doing really well. So kudos. Look, we're talking about it because it's got $1 million freaking dollars here. And Dungeons and Lasers 7. I just like the fact that Archon just stays with the numerical system. They don't try and get creative or catchy. They just go, hey, this is 7. Hey, this is 8. Hey, this is 6. You know what? It's a bunch of miniature stuff, right? It's RPG driven. You can get a whole bunch of stuff, only this time it's going to be a ship. Whoa, that thing is actually relatively massive. That's kind of cool if I had the game group and the ability to play with something like that. Again, I think you'd go for one of those things rather than some of the small stuff, because I don't really care about some of the smaller stuff, right? Like thematically, sure, but the rest of the stuff, no thanks. But you know what? RPG stuff is, when it's high end, still getting a lot of money, crowdfunding, Gamefound, Kickstarter, or otherwise. So there you go. Thought I'd just mention it real quick. By the way, I just want to throw this in here at the end. Look at this. These are the newest projects on crowdfunding when I'm looking at this. Oh, look at all of these. All of these thumbnails. Woo, they all look very similar, sort of AI generated. And they're all by actually different companies. I wonder if they're actually different companies. All with similar descriptions there as well. Good job filtering stuff out, Kickstarter. And you know what? Last but not least, we'll go to this one just with that little interruption there previously. If you're still tuned in, I guarantee you're not, but that's okay. I got about 5 people watching at this point. The Wonderbox of Alice. It's a escape room meets puzzle box game. I mean, I think the concept is cool. I've never had the appeal for an escape room game in general on the tabletop, but this seems like it is actually doing something unique. And from ID Venture, this seems just like a cool idea. And so if this is your thing, this might be a nice, unique sort of experience, you'll say. Release the puzzle pieces, assemble the puzzle, get the secret mechanisms, reveal the secrets, and go along, because you can't really spoil it, because otherwise it'll be completely spoiled. And you get a little mini puzzle as an exclusive that's in the form of a card. Stretch goals, you know what, let's see. There you go. A few different supplies of wooden kits that you can put together, and why back it as getting a bonus item and limited stretch goals. You know what? It is what it is, but it's getting money, so there you go. That's how we're ending this week. Yeah, that was a long video. Yeah, that was a lot of games. Yeah, I went through about 20 pages of Kickstarter to try and find as many as I could. And you know what? I probably missed a few, and I'm sorry. And you can let me know in the comment section down below. But a lot of the ones that I skimmed past were ones I actually covered a couple weeks ago that were still running. So I didn't miss, hopefully, as many as I thought I may have initially. But that's all I got. I mean, we can rant and rave about Nintendo Switch 2 prices here for a little bit at the end, but you know what? I just don't feel like it. I am tired. You have watched a long video. Thank you for your support. And I'm sorry for Patreon folks. With everything going on, sickness and vacation, everything else, you will have a video this weekend, period. And we'll make it worthwhile. So there you go. Otherwise, thanks for watching, subscribing, and dealing with me and putting up with me the whole time. So I'm sorry a couple of those games also weren't as in-depth as I try to do, mechanically speaking sometimes, but you know, we probably had at least 10 games in there that were 30-page rulebooks in addition to the almost 30 games I covered. So, you know what? It's free for you to watch this, so hopefully it was worth the price. I'll have something out maybe this weekend. I don't know. I got to film, or at least finish filming the Best of March video. I have to start filming the big news video for April. Bunch of stuff. I probably have enough already, but you know, depending on how things go, I might have that video out this coming week, or I might have it out the next week. And you know, what else is going on? We'll have to do this a little bit soon. I will have a multi-game review video out of games that I mentioned, I think in one of their videos this past week. I'm going to do sort of I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but it's an awesome game, and you give it a look-see, sort of quick, short synopsis review, and not nearly as long, and not maybe as much component breakdown, but just like 2 or 3 minutes of, or 4 minutes, maybe max, of here's this game, here's why you should be interested, here's why I like it, giving the spotlight, if nothing else. That's all I got. Peace out, stay classy, see you around.